So I'm going to start this week's episode of Ups and Downs off with a rant, which I'm sure you're very excited about. But of course, AEW Dynamite last night came from the ECW arena, and I thought this was the coolest, most badass thing I have seen in ages. But some people, usually the trolls, are all like, oh my gosh, AEW can't even go in 1,000-seater anymore, going back to all these old things. Why the hell are you so against nostalgia? Why the hell are you so against nerd culture, man? Imagine any kind of big promotion looking to the past and being, you know what would be fun, which is what wrestling is all about, do you know what would be entertaining? We can go to where ECW used to run their shows, and a bunch of crazy fans will come down and they'll shout very rude things, because that's what we used to do back in the late 90s. Of course, it's awesome when we go to these big stadiums, you have thousands of people cheering for sports entertainment, but we need both sides of the coin. Otherwise, what is the point? It's why it's awesome having WWE, it's awesome having AEW. You can pick and choose the wrestling you do want, and if you just want it to be one way, well, believe you me, we had that for 20 years, and after a while, you just wanted to punch yourself in the face. Go back to 2019. Do you remember what happened in 2019? I will give you 2 words and I will give you 4 words. 1, dog food, and 2, hell in a cell. So I want more of this. I want more because I do not have to worry about the finances of AEW or WWE. I just want wrestling to make me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, and being in the ECW arena with what is essentially the #2 wrestling promotion in the world, that tickles my tum. And it warms up my Tootsie Toes and does other strange words that I shouldn't have said. So I am giving it an up, and now you can yell at me in the comments. But we do that anyway. The other day, somebody watched me wrestle and said, he looks like a fat guy that lifts weights. So this is what we're doing. Let's up those downs. Excalibur at the start of the show was also telling us that Will Ospreay is in bad shape to tie into the story at Forbidden Door. But of course, he is about to have neck surgery. So let's just send all the love to William. And I really hope he's able to recover and get back in the ring. Those goobers FTR then interrupted because they were in a bad mood. And this was because Dax Harwood had something to say, and that's because at the pay-per-view, even though he was pinned, he wasn't a legal man. I was like, is that true? It was never actually made clear here. When he turned to Paul Turner, the referee who happened to be in the ring, and he said, you listen to me, buddy, you better reverse the decision. And in true wrestling referee fashion, he said, I'm not going to do that because my decision is final. So once again, can somebody go back and watch that and let me know if that did happen, or if FTR are just being a couple of jackasses. Of course, the fans then started chanting bald at Dax, so I started to cry in my chair. Why you gotta do this, man? You do understand that when you chant this, you affect every single bald person on the planet. And also, I would look out the window today and be a little bit careful, because Mother Nature waits for no human, so you could be next. Then what are you gonna do? You're gonna come knock on my door and say, Simon, can I join the Bald Brotherhood? I'm going to let you in because I'm a nice guy, but I am not going to give you a free cookie. Stokely Hathaway then joined in and told him to stop listening to internet wrestling fans, which once again I took offense to. I was like, Stokely, I'm an internet wrestling fan, and I just agreed with you. They, of course, were then going to beat up the referee when Adam Copeland and Christian Cage came out, and Christian is already influencing Copeland in a bad way, because while Adam came out to his music on this day, it was basically a distraction, because Christian, he stuck up behind Stokely Hathaway, and he took him out with a kill switch, and everybody started to fight and everybody started to brawl because that's just what we do. Also, from this point on, I'm always going to use Cope and Christian as my piece of evidence that sometimes you should rush things in wrestling because they are so damn good together. Like, Christian got a microphone and said, listen, we dealt with my problem, which was the patriarchy, but now we have to deal with Adam Copeland's problem, which is you, FTR. And if you can believe it, I went and did some research, and I know you both have fathers. This is when Adam Copeland melted down. He stole the microphone and said, this is not what we're doing. We chatted about this, and when this crazy audience started to boo him, he was like, all right, you're a bunch of sickos. When he passed the microphone back to Christian, who of course said, that bitch is dead. I laughed at this. I laughed at somebody being deceased. That makes me a bad person. But I blame Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. They're too entertaining. This match also got made to All Out, which I'm actually very excited about because I'm going to that pay-per-view, so do please come say hello if you are there. And I actually think it's way better not having the tag team titles involved because it just gives you more freedom to play around with. But yes, Christian Cage and Adam Copeland are brilliant. FTR are obviously brilliant. Stokely Hathaway is brilliant. So I am giving it an up. And I pondered on this one. I actually think it's some of my favorite stuff going right now, even though it did happen in Fast Forward. Which just goes to show, sometimes you just got to do something and see what happens on the screen. Don't know why I was doing jazz hands. Why the flub nut? Darby then popped in with a video and said sorry to all the people who were upset that I climbed Mount Everest and didn't die. It's like, oh my gosh, where did that come from? When he talked about all the bodies he saw while climbing that mountain and it made him cry. I enjoy that. More people should talk about this. It doesn't matter what gender you are. If you have water coming out your seeing devices, well, like I've always said, we have tears for a reason. Use them. He is super pissed at the Death Riders though, especially John Moxley, so he's going to take everything from this guy. And he even said, do not step in the ring with me unless you're prepared to die. So if we had cut to John after this and he had gone like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, I'd be like, yeah, no offense, Darby. I'm on Moxley's side. That is quite the big ask. He also showed off his horribly damaged ear, which I'm never going to get over. And if you haven't seen this at Forbidden Door, don't do it. It's not worth it. But it is great having Darby Allin back. And somehow climbing Mount Everest has made him feel more badass. I mean, he's an OG anyway, and given what happened in the main event, well, I'm quite excited about what we're going to do next up. This is when John Moxley was here because he was going to have a fight with Daniel Garcia. This was a little bit random because, of course, Danny's been hanging out and playing Nintendo with Nigel McGuinness. But as Garcia mentioned in the week, I used to fight the Death Riders before I kind of got distracted. And given what they have done to William Ospreay, well, now I have to try and help out. Now, actually, what I think we're going to do here is probably turn Daniel Garcia heel and put him in the Death Riders. Because if that group is going to continue, they need new members. And that would actually be an interesting way to turn him heel, as opposed to beating up Nigel, which we teased at Forbidden Door, and he didn't do. This was a really damn good match as well, because they just laid all their stuff in. Poor Barry Barricade was getting walloped too. But of course, Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta were here, and they were causing distraction and doing all kinds of stuff. So put a 1 on the dick board. And remember, the dick board is always there to remind you that professional wrestling is totally obsessed with distractions, interference, and confusions. And we should have these things. They're important wrestling tropes. You just don't need to overdo them. Thank goodness for Danny Magic though, because he was watching for the back, so he came out to calm stuff down. And he was wearing all white. So I got so worried. I was like, oh no, I bet there's going to be blood on that stuff before the end of the evening. But actually he was okay. Danny boy hasn't turned yet. Garcia was also able to stop the paradigm shift by holding the ropes when he applied a half Boston Crab. And I was like, that's very weird because, you know, he's not from Boston, he's not a crab, and he's definitely a full human being. So what the flub is he doing? That's a terrible plan. Moxley did hurl him into Simba the Steel Steps, but actually Daniel came back with the pile driver for the 1, 2, 3. Where, of all the things, he tried for the most devastating move. In all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up when John Moxley, this murderous fiend, reversed it, and he got his own surprise roll-up, and he got the 1, 2, 3. Now, I can't criticize this one because it made me laugh out loud, especially because John Moxley looked like the cat that got the cream. He doesn't care, man, he just wants wins. The Death Riders also made sure to tell Darby Allin, no, we're not going to do your match, which again, I wasn't surprised about, when Moxley whispered something to Garcia, who basically went, and went totally crazy. So I think we are planting the seeds. If you were going to ask me, I would say before All Out, Daniel Garcia is going to be a bad guy. So I'm going to give this an up, especially because the match itself was so good. Like, it did have an aggressive side, but some of the technical stuff was really good. When Wheeler Yuta stood in the ring and just started saying, man, I trained so hard, I was even like a helper boy at this arena, and you guys still boo me, but I don't care. And I gotta say, as he continues on his transformation into Cousin It, I really like this dude because he totally gets it, as he proved here once again, because the hook symbol went up, out came Hook to make his big return. Though he also made that big return a couple of months ago when he looked at Samoa Joe, which was interesting, and he just beat the absolute crap out of Wheeler Yuta, and he choked him out with the red rum. Again, it was nice and simple, and also Hook has this awesome brand new music. I saw some people complaining about that as well. It's just so different, and it almost doesn't work, but because of that it stands out, and it works. Don't ask me how these things play out, but they do. I also think it kind of works with his character, this wonderfully haired warrior that he is. But yes, we need to make sure we evolve him from where he was before. But why can't we do that, man? You got a pop here. Everybody likes Hook. Nice and simple. Get it up. We also got word for MJF after Forbidden Door, and man, he was so damn mad. And boy, howdy, can this guy cut a promo. He talked about the fact the fans chanted, "You deserve it," when he was pouring with blood, and how Hangman had essentially cheated when he did smack MJF in the head with that contract. He also knows that Mark Brisco is responsible for this. The next time he sees him, he will finish the job and kill him. So put a 1 on the crime counter when he referenced the fact that Tony Khan has now made it official. If he wants to cash in this contract, he has to give him a week's notice. But MJF doesn't care, because when he does it, he will become the World Heavyweight Champion. Actually, no, what he said is that he's going to take Hangman's world title and his soul. Look, I want to be that guy, I'm not a lawyer. We'd have to talk to Mark Sterling. But I do not think you can write that into the fine print of a contract. He also made it very clear that he's going to be focusing on Mark Briscoe until he gets back to Hangman. And I just enjoy that because it kind of puts people in interesting positions, especially given what we did do with the Cowboy later on, and Mark Briscoe too. So I am going to give it an up. It's always nice and easy when it comes to MJF. Whether he wins or whether he loses, give him a microphone and he will make that shit work. When it felt like we continue to tease what could be the future of the women's tag team scene in AEW, because now, yes, we are getting some good duos. If this match is anything to go by, it will absolutely kick some ass. Now listen, I understand there's way too many championships in all of wrestling, but that doesn't mean you don't add ones that we should have. It means you look at the entire gambit and find some and go, well, we don't need that anymore, kick it to the curb. We also had the very interesting team of Kris Statlander and Harley Cameron, who had the most over-the-top entrance ever, and Penelope Ford and Bayne, and they just whooped some ass. I am going to throw one down in here because Willow Nightingale did run out at the end, which I'll talk to you about in just 1 second. But given what happened at Forbidden Door when they had some miscommunication, I really think we either need to get to the point they have a match or we just draw a line under it altogether. I mean, we are coming up for a year since that street fight they had it All Out. I just think we've allowed it to play out a little bit too long, so I am personally giving that a down. Not that it actually matters, because Kris Statlander and Willow Nightingale are still super duper over. Otherwise though, I thought this was really good, mostly because Kris and Harley were happy to be the baby faces, and Megan and Penelope were happy to be the assholes. So it's the opposite of that Cyndi Lauper song. Kris was also able to get a stalling suplex on Megan Bayne, so it was big women slapping man meat, and after Harley Cameron got the crap kicked out of her, Statlander was like, give me a hot tag. She ran wild. Megan then blind tagged in and wrecked Kris Statlander with a German suplex, and I was like, yep, I will take that singles match. When the heels missed a couple of moonsaults, so the good guys came back with a couple of kicks. Again, it was just 2 + 2 = 4. There was no potato here. Let's just do what works. Statlander then must have taken a potion to boost her stats because she essentially caught Penelope Ford in midair when she applied this submission move where she tried to rip every single one of Ford's limbs off. I think Penelope realized, I don't think I have much of a future in wrestling. If I do lose all of those, she tapped out and Kris Statlander looked strong. And listen, after this, the bad guys did jump Harley Cameron. And when Kris Statlander was fighting off Megan Bayne, which she did do successfully, Willow ran to the ring. And I can't say she was here to make the save, because nobody needed saving. It was very strange, but the commentators did make it clear, oh, maybe Harley Cameron is the one to reunite them. It's like, why would Harley want to do that? She's just proven she's got a good tag team with Kris, and if she gets back with Willow, well, she may be kicked to the curb. But yes, look, it was just a really good match, so I am going to give it an up, and it's totally proven to me that if you do want to add in some women's tag team titles, well, the opportunity is there. The division right now must be better than ever too, and that's pretty damn good. Speaking of that too, here came Mercedes Moné to have a chat with Renee Paquette, and as she is now 9 belts Mercedes, she wants a 10th one, because then of course she can draw with Ultimo Dragon, and then we can do that match. And listen, you laugh and go, that's never gonna happen. CM Punk returned to WWE, you can get Mercedes versus Ultimo. She also called herself the greatest of all time and that she is coming for more belts. Thank goodness she said women's titles, because I am currently the UPW champion and the Chaos Wrestling Internet champion. I started looking around, I was like, oh man, is Mercedes gonna come and whip my butt? I don't need that, I'm very tired. She also talked about Rev Pro, which is a pretty cool shout out for them, when Renee Paquette was like, wait a minute, didn't Alex Windsor make you tap out last week? Mercedes was so wonderfully stupid. She said, I didn't tap out. I was trying to squash a bug. I laughed out loud. It's the worst excuse ever, but that's what I need, because goofy wrestling for life. Now, obviously, people thought Alex Windsor was going to interrupt, but I would assume she's with her husband right now, who's about to have neck surgery. When Mercedes decided, man, I'm not going to do anything now but dance, which is the most interesting choice ever on a wrestling show. So look, you could just call this filler, or somebody said, look, we're going to have to put Mercedes Moné on the show a little bit. But I thought it was fine. Like, I will give it an up. It's one of those limp ups, like you didn't have to do this. But it's better to put Moné on the thing than not do it, especially because she has so many championships. It also only went on for about 4 minutes. I mean, if you got mad at this, I'd go outside, man. It's a wonderful world. But it does get an up, but again, look at the hand. Just realised we do need to put a 1 on the crime counter though, because she said, Alex Windsor, if you try and take this title from me, I will put you on a hospital bed next to your husband. You said that in the real world, you're absolutely going to jail. When we cut to Mark Brisco, this dude was so mad. Now, first off, congratulations to him, because he does have a new charm, which is why he's not live and in person. When he handed this baby off, because he's like, I'm about to say some terrible stuff, I don't want the kid to hear it. He was right as well, because given that MJF tried to set him on fire last week, he is now going to set fire to all of Maxwell's hopes and dreams. He was so damn wound up that Freeman had the audacity to say he could never win the big one too. He had looked into his statistic book, and can you believe it? He is 2-2 with the current TNT champion, Kyle Fletcher. So Kyle, if you got the cojones, Mark Brisco is going to see you on Collision, and he's going to take that title from you. If I were going to hazard a guess, I probably think MJF will screw that guy over when they have what, like an Inferno match? I mean, it could happen. I really like this though, because actually when you look at MJF and Brisco right now, they are on similar journeys. Maxwell is going to ignore Hangman the World title because he wants Mark Briscoe, and after this weekend, Mark Briscoe is going to ignore Kyle Fletcher because he wants to go back to MJF. So I am going to give it an up. I know a lot of people didn't like last week's segment, but I've told you time and time again, I would always rather wrestling was over the top. Otherwise, it would just be so damn boring. This ties into the idea that every single wrestling show needs to be in a stadium. Kiss my chuddies, man. Shouldn't have said that. I'm actually depressed with myself, but I'm giving it up. When it was indeed time for our party match, and if we all go quiet and we listen really carefully, you can find somebody getting mad on the internet. Because we can't have fun with professional wrestling. It needs to be super serious all the flipping time. There's also a card at Takeshita Echihara and Josh Alexander taking on Brodido and Jet Speed. What else do I need to tell you? We had at least 3 dives to put a 3 on the dive counter. Everybody was jumping around. Brody King was the guy that got the hot tag, and that excited me because it does feel like he's getting a push. And essentially at one point I was like, let me just go through the wrestling move book. Oh, that's right. We've done every single one of them. I also want to give a shout out to Don Callis who did his big intro for his family, and it's so over the top, it's borderline ridiculous. Though actually that is where I'm going to throw it down in, because Wardlow was stood right next to him, and I always think if a big star comes back on a big pay-per-view, you just got to give him a couple of minutes on the microphone to explain where they've been and why they joined up with Don. Now, of course, you can do it on Collision or you can do it on Dynamite next week, but I like striking while the iron is hot, because you may have watched that damn Forbidden Door and gone, I want to know what the deal with Wardlow is, and you didn't get the payoff. I mean, to me, that is just standard wrestling stuff, and I'm sure you don't care, but I just cared a little bit, so I am going to give it a down, but I'm sure we'll learn soon. There's also this great part where Alexander absolutely murdered Brody King with a German suplex when Mike Bailey rang at Takeshita, who gave him this set-out bomb of power when everybody was going off and everybody was just doing moves. And obviously, I make notes when making ups and downs, so I don't forget, and I actually wasn't able to keep up with this. King and Echihara then smashed together with crossbodies too when Bailey just booted Takeshita right in the head. I was like, damn it, this is some wrestling. Now, there's also a story in there as well, because at one point, Okada and Takeshita sort of got into it, because they're not getting on very well at all. And of course, we teased this months ago, even more so what we did at Forbidden Door. And given that Don Callis has so many members in it right now, well, 1, you probably need to throw out 1 eventually, but 2, maybe that's the issue here. Okada is like, well, when it gets to Thanksgiving dinner, now there's going to be even less turkey, and Takeshita feels the same. Although really, if that is the case, you should get mad at Wardlow. He's the dude that last walked in the door. Takeshita also hit this absolutely insane moonsault to the floor, which I guess is a dive, so put a 1 on the counter. And listen, more power to you. You like whatever the hell you like. I'm not you, so what do I care? But I can't believe that people can't get something from these matches. I mean, it's like you've just pushed the go button and then fed somebody like, I don't know, super serum. It's just the timing and where everybody is in the right position at the right time. They're all very skilled professionals. I do feel bad because I went a little bit nerd at the finish, although at the same time I did a backflip, because Mike Bailey was going to go for his shooting star press when Josh Alexander caught him. Turned it into the most devastating move. In all our sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, and this is when my emotions went crazy, because Josh Alexander getting a pin made me do the dance of joy. And I was like, well, I can't really be a hypocrite because I still totally believe that wrestling companies in 2025 use the surprise roll-up to go, that doesn't count that much. It was a little bit of a fluke. Given that Josh does have the C4, I think he could have planted Mike Bailey with that thing. Nobody would have thought less of Mike. That move looks devastating. The irony. So I shouldn't do it, so I am going to give it a down because, again, I have said this on other videos, so it's only fair. But it does not matter because the match gets it up. Like, if you just want to sit down and enjoy 15 minutes of carnage, you should go here. I mean, you could go watch car wreck videos on YouTube. This way's way better. Dynamite then leveled up again because world champion Hangman Adam Page came out here. He's just such a good dude. He was like, Will Ospreay, we're all going to miss you and thank you so much you've done for me this year. And when you are good to return, you could have a world title match. And a damn tear in my eye. What a lovely jubbly cowboy. He also talked about MJF and the fact that he failed on Sunday because he's always going to fail. And that's why even when he does write that ink on that contract, he is going to whoop his ass before it's even dry. I was like, there's no way. that is possible, Hangman. You would have to be right next to him, and I'm pretty sure if he uses a normal biro pen, that it's not going to take more than 3 seconds to dry. So even if you did pin him right away, well, it's just not going to happen. So don't lie to me, man. I like you. Of all the people, Don Callis then walked back out, and it turns out he can't let anything go, because he was like, do you remember how you won that first World Championship? You took it from an idiot that was in my group, but that guy ain't here anymore. And let's not forget, I basically own the entire locker room, and they're all going to come out and whip your ass. Josh Alexander was here, and Edgy Seri was here. I think Rocky Romero was there too. And Hangman was like, I'm not going to wait for you to attack me. And he started kicking ass, but of course the numbers game went against him. I mean, Jet Speed came out there to try and help, because they're good guys, when the person who was genuinely going to balance the books was Kenny Omega. And even though there's only like 980 fans in the ECW arena, they went totally mad, because of course it meant that Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega, which is a wild nostalgic team in 2025, came back together to do all their tag team moves, and they hugged. I was like, I did not have this on my bingo card, especially because it made me remember that AEW is 6 years old, because this kind of felt old school. I mean, that's utterly ridiculous. They made sure to do a big old hug as well. Now we are going to do the 8-man tag with the Don Callis family, and I think the Young Bucks going to be in that too, which also ties in. And this could even lead to Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page at All Out if you wanted to do that, but I am going to give it an up. This one really did feel like it was for the sickos, because if you remember, my word, you're never gonna forget. And also, it's a great way for Hangman Adam Page to be distracted while we deal with MJF and Mark Brisco. I like this muchly. We then confirmed it is going to be Athena versus Mina Shirakawa at Ring of Honor for the Women's Championship, and Tony Storm was here with Mina as well, when they talked about the fact that some people are eatable, and that Shirakawa is the love bum who's going to eat. I kind of feel like we should stop talking about it there. I presume kids watch Ups and Downs, and this was venturing off into very interesting territory, but we are going to get that match. Going to be an absolute geek as well, you have to forgive me, but I am going to give it down, because I kind of think we should have found an opponent for Tony Storm straight away. That's just how I feel after pay-per-views, man. Doesn't mean I'm right, they're still great. It was then time for Ricochet and the Gates of Agony taking on Samoa Joe and his operations, and this made me feel so damn happy, because it was for the trios titles. And actually I was like, again, we are in the ECW arena, Ricochet and his boys are a bad new group, maybe we can do the title change. I wouldn't have minded that at all when I remembered why the Hurt Syndicate lost their belts at Forbidden Door. It was because of these schmoes that they were about to get their revenge. We also made sure that Will Hobbs got the hot tag here from Shibata, which is massively important, because in terms of the future, he has the most upside due to his age. But Samoa Joe also made sure he got a warm slap. And after seeing him at Forbidden Door, I'm just going to make it very clear, he is absolutely a modern day GOAT. Like, what can't he do? Ricochet still took advantage of all of this, though, and he hit a shooting star press at one point for a 1-2-ooh. When he decided, well, why don't I go back up to the top rope, which is when MVP teleported in, he smacked him with the cane, which is when poor Ricochet got hit with every single one of the Operation's finishing moves, and Samoa Joe choked him out with the Coquina Clutch, so they are still your Trios champions. I love this too. Who gets it more than Ricochet? He was the guy to get his ass beat here. I tell you, in terms of people that have jumped ship, he made the best decision. As soon as the Ops had gone as well, Lashley and Benjamin were here just to fight with the Gates of Agony. And at one point I thought they were going to get in the ring and handle all three of the guys, but Ricky just stood there looking scared. And obviously the cool thing about this is it has to lead to a 6-man tag, meaning MVP may be about to have one of his last matches, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. So listen, I do admit, the way we kind of did this at the pay-per-view was really confusing and weird, especially if you were there live. But in terms of how he followed up, I am going to give it an up. I mean, again, Ricochet and his boys versus MVP and his boys. Well, I think that could be a good old fight. There's the up. Which is when Claudio Castagnoli then killed a man. It was him versus Darby Allin in the main event, and it was a Falls Count Anywhere match. And the first thing that Darby did was jump off a trailer or a tractor, whatever you want to call it. It definitely wasn't a tractor. That actually reminded me of the time when Reggie did this in WWE, because he wanted to have a conversation with Carmella. Right, yep, that kind of separates the two companies very nicely. Claudio was so damn mad, he threw Allin through a TV, then he was smashing him into barricade, and at one point he press slammed this guy from the ring into Allin the announce table, and if it was you and I, we would never walk again. But Darby was back up doing code reds in around about 32 seconds. I mean, the dude can't have a back. If you touch his back area, it must just be like cardboard mush or something like that, because nothing else makes any sense. It meant that Darby had to play dodge, which did work, because Claudio went flying through a table. Castagnoli was so damn mad, he then went to the second rope and basically gut-wrenched Darby Allin through some chairs. Once again, I was like, how does he walk? How does he move around? Then he did his crazy dive too. put one on the dive counter. Thankfully though, Claudio was about to learn a valuable lesson because it was he that exposed T in the turnbuckle, so surprise, surprise, being the heel. Eventually his face went into the steel when Darby Allin hit that code red that we already talked about, and he hit not one coffin drop, but two, and he made the pin. This is what I'm talking about. He used his finishing move, and nobody minded. Claudio Castagnoli, man, he is another dude that does not get the respect he does deserve. But of course here, Darby Allin just beat somebody in the Death Riders. His path to Jonathan Moxley is on. Gabe Kidd of all people attacked him afterwards, and Marina and John Moxley were here as well. And eventually Darby pushed them together when he did run away, makes all this sense. And Gabe Kidd went after him and they fought in the parking lot. But yes, we are just teasing what we probably are going to do at All Out. And given what we did here, and given what we saw at Forbidden Door, we should all be pretty damn scared. We've already seen an ear piercing. Who the flub knows what's next? You can also probably do the thing now where Darby Allin works his way through all the Death Riders before he gets to John. I think I just said that. I repeated myself because I am an idiot. But I am going to give it an up. I mean, especially this happened in the ECW arena. It did have that old school feel. And having Darby Allin back on TV, well, it just makes sense. Which brought us to the end of a very special, unique episode of Dynamite, and I love the atmosphere and I love the crowd because it did feel totally different. Like, AEW is doing a residency here, so maybe in a few shows it will lose its allure, but I would always rather all promotions took risks because we're going to watch every single show every week anyway. So I am going to give it an up, but it's more important what you think about things, so make sure you drop me a comment below and let me know. You can also call me an idiot, what do I care? Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is ups and downs for Forbidden Door, outside the O2 Arena. Otherwise, my friends, I'm going to lose my voice still from that damn weekend. Take care and have a terrific day.